Greetings, ladies and metalgens, and welcome to this latest iteration of the web series There Is No Epic Lucha, only puns. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter number 170, The Shattering. Qui was a fascinating creature. As a humanoid spider, he had the agility of a spider, but the thumbs of a person. Truly a deadly combination. Yatina could see that it was an intelligent design. And to her excitement, this monster was already proving to hold massive evidence for one of Yatina's personal favorite hypotheses in the dungeon study circles. In a paper titled The Monster King and I, the famous monsterologist Lady Ettenborg had a theory that monsters in dungeons would eventually reach total sapience with wants and desires. Qui had all of this and more. "Man, this is how I vague," Qui announced, back against the gate while flashing his hands around his head in a strange hypnotic dance. "It's what," Alpha tried to correct, but Qui was vagued away, not listening. "Vague, vague," Yatina said, trying to match the movements. She was sinking herself into a new dungeon culture. "Qui, we should be moving on," Alpha said, and the teen spider turned with a smile. "Will you be swinging past Master Maestro?" he asked, and Yatina made a note of that name. Perhaps some leader man spider. What could a Spider-Man do? "Out of the way. Delta wants to show off the second floor to someone willing to listen, and I've to explain things," my Alpha said, and Qui winced. "Alfie, I love you as much as family can, but you put the yawn and kill me now," Qui said, fingers snapping at once. "There's no yawn in that sentence," Alpha said with a frown. "Perhaps two guides then. Science thrives on multiple points of data," Yatina said brightly. Qui leaned back and put his arms behind his back. "You sure you don't want some private tour guiding?" he asked, flexing to show the scrawny torso. Yatina smiled weakly. "Might feel bad about brushing Alpha off." She tried to let him down gently. It never ended well when someone tried to put the moves on her. Yatina was attracted to people's souls. She saw the physical flesh as something to look past. It hurt when good people felt like she didn't like them because nothing happened when they tried to do something. She stopped trying to explain how it wasn't their lack of beauty, but it was her lack of interest in such things. "I'm not upset. I'd prefer it if you told me you wanted to go off on your own," Alpha said bluntly. "So, this gate, how does it work?" she asked loudly, needing to move the flexing boy spider and indifferent young man onwards before she upset someone. "Oh, it's pretty neat. It's pretty tough, so it can take a serious beating, but to open it," Qui said, and led her to the main part of the bunch of cipher dials were placed. Different lengths and different letters, too. As far as Yatina could see, there was no reference to the code sheet on the walls or the gate. "You need to know the names of the monsters on the first floor to open the gate," Qui said, and Yatina blinked. "They all have names?" she asked, in awe of the idea that they'd all developed so far. "I'll do this one," Qui said quickly, flicking one ear to the left until it spelled Maestro. The thing didn't lock itself in as she was done, so Yatina could see that it was just spinning the dials would do nothing. Yatina noticed something. The way the nameplates were laid out reminded her of something. She hadn't explored the entire first floor, of course, but she had seen incomplete maps from different scouting parties. "Now the nameplates arranged so that if you put them over a map, they would overlay where that monster was on the floor?" she asked curiously, and Qui paled and spluttered. Don't tell anyone," he moaned, and Yatina could see that he was a little disappointed that his gimmick had been found out. "I still don't know their names," she said soothingly. Qui rapidly filled out the other names, and Yatina saw Fran, Farah, and Boa. The spider emblem on the gate slowly pulled its legs back and then climbed upwards, lifting the gate. "That's the gate. He sleeps all the time," Qui said simply. Yatina hadn't even seen a hint of the gate itself was also a guardian. She tried to hide a nervous gulp. Walking down the tunnel, Alpha and Qui discussed things about monsters that even Yatina struggled to keep up with. She was content to just listen until they exited the tunnel out into a large cavern. She came to a stop as she stared up at what she thought was a brilliant night sky for a split second, until she saw dozens of mushrooms were twinkling soothingly all across the cavern. Some had slow pulsating lights, while others danced in time with their neighbors. "It's beautiful," she said without thinking. The two teens shared an odd look before Qui smiled and walked on, hips swinging. Yatina thought she heard a woman screaming in panic in the far distance, but chalked it up to the wind fluttering through the tunnel behind them. She spotted a massively extravagant tent that was lit up from within, streams of color connecting from the very top to all corners of the cavern. A sign nearby declared it as a circus. "You have a circus?" she asked, and Quee walked over to her, holding pieces of rather golden popcorn. "You don't," the spider boy joked. Yatina thought back to her camp with blades arguing over loot possibilities, while scouts tried to avoid paperwork, leaving Yatina drowning in the barely legible reports. A different kind of circus," she said faintly. Quee stuck his head into the tent and spoke with someone. Yatina could only catch snippets of the conversation, but it weirdly felt like only Quee was speaking. "Yes, no hurry, yeah, I can see the OSHA warnings, got it," Quee was saying. "The Circus of the Damned is run by a ghoul named Remy," Alpha explained as Yatina blinked. "Ghoul? Those are not common for this far west. You find those sorts close to rural graveyards," she said slowly. "Remy is a contract and, he's a good person," Alpha said awkwardly. Yatina made a note of that, and she frowned as her fingers kept writing the damned part with a capital letter. Something snuffled at her hand, and Yatina petted the circus animal, expecting fur or leathery skin. Her hand felt cold, solid wood. She looked down at what seemed to be a skeleton of a small farm animal, and goat perhaps. "Oh, you recycle," she said pleasantly. "Only the animals who wanted to stay are animated. They get all the milk they want," Alpha said, eyeing the creature softly. It seemed Alpha was more easygoing around animals than people. "Remy said he'd love to show your circus off, but they're in the middle of a cheer practice, and the two skeletons have their vertebrae mixed up," Quee said casually, as he rejoined them and handed Yatina one of the popcorn kernels. Yatina popped it in her mouth, knowing that if they meant her harm, they didn't need poison. The taste was subtle at first. A nice tang of salt and butter, followed by a rush of pleasant memories of growing up with his sister, followed by the sheer joy of knowing life had so many things to give, and Yatina had so much time to see it all and share it. There was so much science and love. Love, science. She gently used her fingers to wipe away a tear that fell from her eye. "I shall limit myself to a single piece for now," she told the two, who nodded kindly. Something in the far end of the cavern moved, and Yatina stared up at the giant gorilla-like beast. "Hey, Willie, just passing by," Quee said simply, and the gorilla sniffed once and went back to sleep, his silverish hair looking far too soft to be real. She stroked his back as she passed, and it was like petting air. So soft. The gloom of the cavern gave way to the bright light that Yatina could swear was sunlight, but that was unlikely. Skybox abilities were extremely hard for dungeons to get correct, without tons of references. A beautiful sky loomed overhead with wide blue spaces, fluffy white clouds, and a sunset in a near-noon position. A near-emerald green jungle spread out for a massive distance, with birdsong and insects giving it life. "Welcome to the second floor. The theme of this floor is vast vegetation growth," Alpha began before Quee interrupted. "Welcome to the jungle of life," he cried. Yatina bent down and touched the grass growing near the cave entrance. This was amazing, but also a little scary. Second floors shouldn't deviate so hard from their first floors. She had a moment of concern that perhaps the village had force-fed the dungeon so many jungle-themed items to force a change. But she didn't think that they would do that when the giant woman Rooney guarded the door so seriously. She turned, and a giant fuzzy orange thing was buzzing around her feet, the size of a small dog. The fuzzy thing danced around flowers with a carefree attitude. "What's that?" she asked excitedly. "A bee," Alpha said simply. "What? No, bees were little cute things, and this was—" It turned, showing its feelers and little stinger butt. Yatina gently put her hands on either side of it and placed it under her arm like a carrier bag. Miss?" Alpha asked, uncertain. "This brings me so much joy," she declared. The bee buzzed. "Sorry, bzzzt. She's new here," Quee said politely, and the bee just settled into being carried. That was when Yatina saw the second bee. She had 2 arms. If she taped 2 to her legs, one in the front and one in the back, she could die happy. "Your tour has been diverted," Quee announced. Alpha shrugged. "It doesn't sting as much as you think," he countered. Something moved in the underbrush, and Yatina froze as a pink little shape emerged. What was that? She needed all of them. Lum walked in, bow drawn, as he was followed in by 2 guides. Dio and Poppy were their names. I need to get to the second floor as fast as possible, he told them, and Poppy eyed his beau with a long, raised brow. She was a bit taciturn, not someone Lim was sure that he could befriend easily. Dio, in comparison, befriended Lim without his permission. You don't need a weapon. You're just here to collect something or see someone. We just declare ourselves as visitors, Dio said brightly. Lim blinked at him and was slightly loud, but not unbearably so. I don't quite follow, he admitted. Visitor status lets you move through the dungeon without hassle. You should try it, yeah? Poppy muttered as she walked past, and to Lim's surprise, her book floated on its own to shudder. Back again, are we? The book asked, and Poppy gave it a small smile. Showing someone the ropes, can you tell me how Silver's battle led him to the Sea of the Gods, Lastus and Lassus? I think this is going to be a long stroll, she asked, and the book huffed. All you do is ask. I'd like a tale one day, the book complained, as they vanished down the tunnel, their voices fading. All Lim heard was the book beginning his tale. Silver, in his rage, travelled east in some unknown manner, following mana veins to track his object of madness. Dio patted his shoulder. Poppy is shy. Don't take it personally, he said with a bright smile. Lim couldn't help but smile back. You're really doing me a solid, Dio. Most people didn't want to help because I was fair play, he admitted. I really made friends with Gus, sir. Don't mind, Dio promised, and Lim didn't know anyone called Gus in fair play. He shrugged the comment off and followed Dio to the spider room, in which the webs moved of their own accord to form a clear path through. Lim stared at the ease which Poppy moved on without hindrances. He turned and nearly screamed as a phantom spider moved down the wall and approached them. Dio waved, and Lim desperately wanted his bow. With quick movements, the spider put 2 knitted caps on their heads made from fine silk. Oh, this will be lovely for the winter, Dio exclaimed. Lim wasn't going to make it to winter if his heart didn't start beating so hard. I have something I wanted to ask you, Chef, Rudy said as the man brought her lunch and a drink from the pub. The handsome fella tilted his head, and sometimes Rudy wanted to chill with Seth, and other times she wanted Chris to waltz by so that they could shoot barbs at each other. My answers are for yours to pilfer, Seth said with a small bow. Rudy sipped her beer, remembering how innocent children were coming and going out of the dungeon. She did not want to face Isanella after Dio walked out and saw Rudy showing Seth how fluent she was in tongues. Your kingdom, it's down south, right? She asked, and Seth translated her words in his head before responding. It is, he agreed, and sat down on a nearby stone to join her for a moment. In the shattered left, she pressed, and Seth hummed. My home is complicated, he said slowly. No shit, it was complicated. I skipped history lessons, but why does most of this world speak one language, but the shattered left has like 16 unique languages? She pondered. Seth stared at her, and he seemed to decide that she wasn't being malicious or cruel, relaxing slightly. The shattered left is not just simple, not physical alone. When the old home was cracked, the people broke too. Pieces of some went one way, ideas and words another. We were a shattered nation, Seth explained, trying to keep his tone as elegant as possible. What people's words got shattered? How did that happen? Rudy asked as she slowly ground a stone over his sword's edge. Magma was getting rusty from boredom. Too many Jasuk, he said and frowned, trying to think of the right word. Too many starborn. Gods, Rudy blinked. Yes, one tribe needed sun, bring a god. One wanted rain, brought a god. Another to control rivers, god. Arguments appeared, gods used to settle. Villages went to combat, gods used to end, Seth said, looking down at his hands. Rudy just stared at him, not even eating her leg of lamb. People couldn't resist. People uses heart and body will to call gods who were king of gods. Killer gods, gods of gods. Seth's voice went somber. I'm sorry. Well, but what happened to all those gods? Rudy asked, engrossed now. The Caglin emerged and struck them down. Home was taken from us to heal the wound in the skyflash, Seth said sadly. He saw her puzzled look and waggled a finger at the sun. We do not send thoughts of soul to them, but they are, as you tell, gods. This land's gods, he said, and Rudy nodded slowly. The sister came, kicked ass, and took your words away, Rudy frowned. Must have. With words we call more gods. know the right tongues and promises. We go to death in combat again, Seth said bluntly. So, you can't have any gods down there. I don't see the appeal in them, but I'm not against them. Well, until now, Rudy admitted. Seth smiled at awkward phrasing. Some we united a little, formed new words. Home only has small gods approved by many agreements or refusal by the same people. Gods agree to be like trees. Come early, fade into the cold winter, Seth said with a nod. Oh, that's nice. So you like gods? Rudy asked, and Seth's eyes darkened. No. Old actions repeated do not perish easily. A tree must heat death, and town must suffer much water, Seth said with a hard voice. I know about the tree from quests, but what's the business about town? Rudy questioned as she downed her beer. Gods are not supposed to stay. I will not give my permission for another shattering. If town will not admit their crimes, there will be no more town. More words will be washed away. No more shattering, he said, and stood up. I thought this town was as close to the old world tree. How does it have anything to do with the shattering? Rudy also stood up. Seth eyed her and hesitated for the first time. The pretender of wood is not right for his crown. To wear it, the tree uses the Joseph gods to get power of might. Only for a short time, only for a little time, Seth said quietly. Gods come, but they do not leave. They do not live, but they do not die. Their stars do not fade. He finished and turned to leave. Seth, Rudy hesitated, and the water mage looked back at her. Wouldn't the new gods sense a trap? Why would they come? She wondered. They no longer do. The fake crown has a beast of many forms to bring him fresh food. The beast believes that she is saving the world by killing Starborn. She is a fool, said Seth flatly. The man looked down suddenly and looked heartbroken. My wise teacher. She was used to draw a god of magic in, used like cattle and thrown to the worms when it was done with her, he whispered. What's this town called? Rudy asked, eyes narrowing. Seth looked to the sun for a moment, then answered. Eden. Yatina was in an orange paradise. A pile of bees covered her and were vibrating cheerful tunes. Alpha had put her on a piece of large bark and was using a magic rope to simply drag her along as Yatina vibed. To the left is a tree that looks slightly bigger than the one to its left, while on its right is a nice rock, Alpha intoned, and Yatina could imagine it. Damn, what a fine boulder. And now we have arrived, Alpha said suddenly, and the bees began to float away. My fluffy tomb, Yatina cried. The bees joined an astounding number of others as they toiled around a waterfall of delicious-looking honey that pooled into large lakes around the massive central stone plateau. Streams of red, blue, green, yellow, orangey purple, and more made the scene magical as fields of flowers grew in between each pool with vibrant hues. She read one of the signs near the pool. Red makes you hyper, yellow makes you see things, green soothes, blue excites, purple-orange invites creativity, and white honey is only taken with the permission of the queen. Ignoring this advice might lead you to sleeping with your co-worker, dancing to songs that no one likes, being annoying, being barred from the dungeon, having a midlife crisis, crying, missing the boss fight, running late with toast in your mouth, and or potentially exploding. No. Looking back at the sign, she read another note. Or do what you want. I'm just a sign. New signpost number 45. The honey is sourced from local bees, who produce anywhere between endless and a lot of honey. Alpha gestured to a hive of activity. I'd like to turn buttload, Yatina offered as Quee swam in the green honey with a sigh. A buttload of honey. The leader, Queen Lizzie, the first of her name, is the one in charge and has been known to host some honey sampling contests for the locals. Judges include Druid Divina, Old Elder Frog, Giant, Rail, Luna, Rennie, Bob Once, and more, Alpha said with a final nod. What does the white honey do? She asked, and Alpha smiled a little. It allows you to be content with yourself for 10 minutes. It's made from the golden popcorn and distilled to purer form, he warned. How content? Yatina made notes. Rumors say that it's enough to make you feel no shame in awkward teenage year memories and even able to smile a little, he said, and Yatina eyed him. She didn't feel any shame in those years. Shame required other people to even consider her worth thinking about it at the time. Still, this was so much fun. The bees filled a little case with the 3 samples of pulls, and she collected it from the gift shop they had with a picture of a bee in a witch's hat. It was called the Spelling Bee. "What's next?" she asked excitedly, and Alpha thought about it. "Let's go see Bob. I like Bob," he decided. Eutina couldn't wait. "Is Bob more family? An uncle?" she asked excitedly, as she put her honey samples in a safe bag. He's something," Alpha agreed with an odd smile. End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Bitmori, Terran on Air, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lightsjock, Dragzoon WRE, Lord Azrakul, and Arcadian. Thank you.